Welcome to r/Prorevenge, where OP reveals that his abusive boss has stolen millions of dollars. Oi, here we go. So, I was working in headquarters for a large and well-known company, cubicle sort of gig. I'd been there 3 years, and the woman I got revenge against had been there about 12. She's known to have a bit of an attitude and was pretty much next in line to fill a very high position under the CEO. She's always not liked many of the office workers. Pretty much all the men and one woman she would constantly make cry. I one day ended up brushing past her in a hurry to hand something off to my supervisor, which he needed ASAP. Both of my hands quite obviously occupied holding something at chest level. She ended up filing a harassment claim saying I grabbed her butt. After 2 weeks of hellish unpleasantness, I ended up getting my supervisor to pull cam footage as they were pretty much about to term me, which saved my butt. Well, I'm friends with the guy she looks to talk to, even though he doesn't much like her. I ended up giving him my recorder pin a few weeks later and got him to try and egg her into talking about trying to get me fired. He managed to get her to admit to that and 3 other instances where she did get men fired for false harassment claims. I ended up getting the recording back, made a few copies, and ended up handing them off to HR. Each of the other 3 men in question via email, my boss and his boss, her husband, anonymously, and everybody on the board. I basically forced the company into a situation where their star player couldn't stay. Because A, 2 of the 3 men are currently looking to sue. B, I was getting ready to as well. And C, it was completely indisputable. I lost her job and career, any chance at using the place as a reference, and probably damaged her marriage. She's not getting a severance or any of her paid time off paid to her. She sent me an email calling me an evil bastard, saying she hopes karma pays it forward soon, and a few other things. Lady, this was karma paying it forward. And then OP posted an update. After she was terminated, they went through her company email and apparently found out she had been stealing thousands from the company corporate card she had, eating out regularly with clients/partners/colleagues and charging the company account cards for it. She'd also been using the company's flight mileage for herself on things not actually business related. She also used it to buy gifts for some of her superiors. Turns out, there were some more false claims she made to other people's jobs we weren't aware of. One possibly being the reason her positional predecessor ended up leaving. The latter is speculation. I haven't gotten my hands on any copies yet from my friend in HR. I've gotten a lot of people jobs at this company, so I've got access to a lot of information. About 9 people around her were terminated, maybe more. At least 3 people were suspended. HR is looking through years of footage also. They seem to have either forgotten about me or are saving me for last, since I've not really decided to insert myself into this massive multi-dimensional quantum dumpster fire. They are handing out non-disclosure agreements and such like they're hotcakes. Lawsuits are happening. 2 of the 3 men I sent information to are suing the company hard. One of which, I'll point out, nearly lost his marriage. I'm very happy this relieves some stress for him. It looks like she's going to be prosecuted by the company, and hard. Somebody told me her husband left her. I have no proof of this, only my boss mentioned it. Supposedly, his boss told him that. His boss and her were very chummy. My friend, the one who took the recording for me, took a huge severance, 9 months of normal pay, and his paid time off, and is starting at a big tech company starting with an S in 4 weeks. They decided to get him on board early. Also, she sent me another message saying I'm the most evil person she's ever met, who got away with something terrible and she hopes I die. I replied, okay, how's your husband? And then another update. They're looking at about $2.3 million she stole, according to my boss. My boss said, how do you spend that much money on food and flights in 5 years? So I did the math, and this woman spent about $460,000 illegally, basically money she stole every year. That comes out to almost $40,000 every month. or $1,200 every day. My God, this woman actually belongs in jail. Our next Reddit post is from Terrible Dealer, and it's worth mentioning that in this post, OP is a male. Some background. My teacher knew my dad because my dad, a lawyer, had represented his ex-wife several years before in a super bitter divorce. For some reason, my teacher took out that frustration on me. He would verbally abuse me in front of the class. If I raised my hand to answer a question, he would roll his eyes before calling on me and loudly say to the class, "Listen to what OP says. That way you will know what the wrong answers are." He would criticize my work, make comments about how I'll never amount to much because obviously I have a learning disability. I don't. He was just being a prick. I would often get marked down for penmanship, but after asking some classmates, apparently I was the only one being graded on that. I know history wasn't my best subject, but the way I was being treated was totally uncalled for. I began to have anxiety to go to that class. I would dread it all day. My friends would even mention casually, "Yeah, Mr. Smith really doesn't like OP. What did you do to him, bro?" My dad was pissed that he was obviously being biased towards me for something I had nothing to do with. Dad made noise and tried to get me moved into another class, but the district and school were over capacity as it was. I couldn't move classes without displacing another student, and the school didn't think that would be fair to the other student. But it's fair to me to let this keep going on because you can't move me? WTF. Now, my dad never discussed details of his cases, but I had overheard him angrily telling my mom, after our meeting with the principal, that he doesn't like that I'm in that effing pedophiles class. An idea was planted in my head, and it started to grow. I devised a plan. I gathered social media pics of a girl who was underage and went to another school, and made some profiles on Kik and WhatsApp using a Google Voice number from our city. I changed her names for obvious reasons. Once I had him hooked on the made-up 17-year-old girl, I sent all the chat logs and pics that he had sent to her to the principal and the school district main office using every email address I could find on the school district website and social media pages. Within 3 days of the emails being sent, we had a substitute. All we were told was that Mr. Smith had to take some time off due to his personal issues. I still don't know what happened to him after that. I graduated about 3 months after he was put on leave and never heard from or saw him again. I joined the military and left town about 6 months after all this happened and haven't returned to the city since. One of my friends, who still lives there, told me a while back he saw him working the deli counter at a grocery store not far from the high school. I never told a single soul, and nobody knows it was me. The rumor mill went wild about him being a pedophile, but nobody knew I had anything to do with it, even though I benefited the most from his departure. I imagine they tracked the girl down and asked her, but she obviously didn't know him. However, the chat logs from WhatsApp showed the girl telling him she was 17 about 3 days before he sent the first of many pictures of his junk. So that was probably enough to at least get him fired and lose his teaching certification. I don't regret it, but I would never go so far on anyone again. I was a bitter, moody teen, but when you're being bullied by someone with authority over you, you have to do what you have to do to survive. Honestly, OP, you didn't do much except give him rope to hang himself with. Our next Reddit post is from Borderline Nihilist. My grandpa was a quiet guy. He loved his family more than anything, and he was very, very observant. The wedding reception was in full swing. Everyone is drinking and dancing and having a great time. One of my dad's friends drunkenly decides to play a prank. He gets 2 more of dad's buddies to help. Grandpa notices him sneaking out and watches. Now, Mom has an awesome car. It was a blue Camaro with a Landau top and was either 69, 70, or 71. Mom doesn't remember. This friend of Dad's also had a Camaro of the same year. Anyway, the trio go out to Mom's car, pop the hood, and take apart. I think it was spark plugs, but whatever they took, it meant the car wouldn't start, leaving my parents kinda stranded. Grandpa saw this, waited till the drunk guys went back in, then took the same part from the drunk guy's car and put it in Mom's. He then took the drunk guy's tools and flashlights and hid them in the coat closet. Soon, it's real dark, so the newlyweds leave for the hotel room. Drunk guy and his friends are even drunker and discover their car won't start. They pop the hood and see the missing part and start looking for the tools and flashlight. Grandpa walks over and says, "Your tools and light are in the coat closet. I hope your car is comfy because the building won't be unlocked until morning." Of course, Grandpa tells Grandma, they laugh, and Grandma tells Mom and Dad. My grandpa was the best. In a way, that was also wholesome revenge because your grandpa stopped those people from driving drunk. Who knows what would have happened? Our next Reddit post is from Grumpy Guy. This happened a while back, actually before Reddit was even thought of and no one had their own portable phone. A local business, an auto repair shop, changed their phone number for some reason, and a few months later, when my family added a second phone line to the house, guess which number we were given? It wasn't that much of a pain since most of the customer base had the new number, but about 6 months later, we start getting calls for this business several times a day, so I finally asked one of the callers where he got the number from. He tells me it's on top of the business's building in 3-foot high letters. Really? So I drive by that way the next day, and sure enough, there it is in big blue letters. I look up the current number when I get home and give them a call. "Hey, I've noticed that you still have your old number on top of your building, and we've been getting a lot of your calls. Would it be possible for someone to correct the sign or just paint over it?" This is where I get told that it's my problem, and they don't have time to deal with it. Click. Oh, okay, now I see. So I figure it won't take long to sort this out. I start taking appointments. I tell a lady we're having a special on tires. I can get her a complete set for $75. $200 was average. I get a guy that needs a complete rebuild on his transmission, and how soon can we do it? I tell him that since we aren't very busy right now, if he can get it in the shop by noon, I have a guy that can have it done by 6 p.m. the same day. And it'll only cost him $750. Super cheap, by the way. I do this maybe 20 to 30 times over the course of a week or so. The calls become less frequent, and as I drive by the following week, I notice that the sign is now just plain white. I'm pretty sure that all in all, I probably cost this guy about $10,000 or so in pissed off customers who showed up thinking they had an appointment and a great deal. Then we have a similar story from Tipsy Chan down in the comments. I had this happen to me too, except it was a woman who kept giving out old business cards. I kept getting her calls for several years, and most of the time, I just told the callers to let her know to stop giving out those god dang cards. But one time, it was a guy trying to set up an interview with her. I let him know she'd been too lazy to update her business card and recommended he hire me instead. I almost got the interview, but sadly, I wasn't qualified. I'd like to think I cost her a job though. Suck it, Monica. That was rSlash and if you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button because it really helps my channel grow.